I can watch this dude's slideshow where he tries to prove ancient Egyptians were not black, or I can know my culture, continent and its history. This pile of shit is for people like you who have never been anywhere near Africa. No point watching an extension of Western lies. Same as I can read a book written by Westerners about speculated African IQs, or I can interact with blacks and observe actual school records of, amongst others, sub-Saharan Africans in the West.
Oh, you're an Afrocentrist. Whatever, man, the pictures are there, the mummies are there, the statues and relief carvings are there, and the Egyptian people are still there, and they look just like all the paintings and whatnot. No one is trying to claim that they are Europeans or even Indo-Europeans, so I don't see what it is you're talking about.
Ah, you're an Eurocentrist. Whatever, man, I can give you some extracts if you like about how many times Europeans have been caught not just making thousands of frauds elsewhere, but about the thousands of fake artifacts they also created for Egyptology. I've been to Egypt and most of Africa. Southern of Egypt and even in the north you still see black Egyptians. Don't worry, I know you'll give some bull explanation. They've been conquered by everyone, the blood is diluted.
You don't even know what Eurocentrism is, you just want to have a blanket term to put on everyone who disagrees with you so that you can downplay everything on the grounds of conspiracy. Egypt doesn't really have anything more to do with Europe than China. But if you want to make an argument, make one with facts and specific points. There are also black Americans, black people in Brazil, Haiti, Puerto Rico, England, Italy, etc. etc. In modern times there are many who go to other countries as migrant workers and refugees because there is nothing in their native country, but many are also descended from slaves that were gathered. You do realize that Egypt was a major hub for the Islamic slave trade during the Middle Ages. The only reason why there are less black people in North Africa and the Middle East than the US is because they habitually castrated black males. Muslims actually took many more slaves than Europeans, and they are still doing it today, but now they get their slaves from Southeast Asia instead of black Africa. Except in countries like Mauritania where they still have abundant black slavery.
You seem to make all this up as you go along. Have you been to Mauritania? I thought not. That UN report was a wild exaggeration. Do not think there is some type of budding slave industry in Mauritania because you watched some fraudulent Western program based on that subject. You base your daft opinions from a certain period. That completely ignores prehistory. Your history starts from a Eurocentric, fabricated and fraudulent revised version history based on prejudice and racism. Egyptians traditionally castrated some slaves. The idea this was done just to black Africans is part of your laughable fraudulent history. What the hell does Islam have to do with this? Egypt, a coastal country, was a hive of activity before Islam was born. Every racist who has been nowhere near Africa, east, west, south or north, feels they're an expert on Egypt. Even in your examples you play on the fact that people are racist and have racist perceptions, lol. And they are still doing it today, really. Name where you heard black people are still being castrated in Egypt today, you complete idiot. It's clear you have no factual basis to be coming out with all this shit. It's about what you assume and perceive. There are several types of racists. You're the type who tries to sound reasonable/intelligent but can't help sounding stupid. The central basis or thrust of your argument is the assumption you know what others, especially blacks, know, including their brain capacity. This is why you've no point. Before I show your ridiculous comment has no bearing on anything, I'll supply an online definition of Eurocentrism. Noun, considering Europe and Europeans as focal to world culture, history, economics, etc. Ampersand about the daft comment itself. Also black Americans, black people in Brazil, Haiti, Puerto Rico, England, Italy, those places, and in Africa. I can accept black Africans and indigenous to these places. But the idea blacks ended up in Asia and as far as the Philippines, etc., but never ventured north/east on their own continent when practically all neighboring populations are black is silly.
Irrelevant. Not everyone in Africa is the same, and blacks are not indigenous to the regions above the Sahara. If the only argument you have is it's in Africa, then you are just being silly. India and China are both in Asia, and right next to each other, and they don't look anything remotely alike. No one owns a whole continent, and your beliefs are based on nothing more than wishful thinking. I never said it was still going on in Egypt. Read my comments before responding. Muslims normally castrated black male slaves, because they didn't want the men getting with their women, but the Muslim men took as many liberties with black women as they wanted. Yes, Egypt was a densely populated area throughout all of history. Anything that you think happened prior to history is just your beliefs. Also, wholesale replacement of large populations is not done without leaving a record. Also, the visual records from Egypt do not support that it was ever black. The mummies, paintings, statues, and relief carvings look just like the people who are there today. The way that they depicted themselves was different than how they depicted Berbers, and Middle Easterners, and Nubians. Nubians were definitely depicted as Negroids, while Middle Easterners were depicted as Caucasoid and with the same skin tones as Egyptians, but larger hooked noses and facial hair.